Good day. Hello, CJ. How are you? Thanks for waking up this early. And all others who are joining in or will be joining in shortly. We're going to continue with the Saint Catherine of Sienna. And I want to thank you also for the donations. I see that Mr. Nobody had also been the benefactor of a couple of more from you because of my plea for the completion of the monastery. All right, and the one thing I wanted to ask your prayers for today was the inspector is coming again to inspect the monastery to give their Jewish permission that it can be occupied. They have some good help though with inspections on buildings and whatnot to give good ideas and such. So I won't be too harsh. Anyway, let's get started with morning prayers, and we'll continue with the introduction, or we'll start the introduction. And I'm going to edit the introduction to the book because it's a little bit long, and it seemed a little bit like not necessary from some of the information I was reading about it. Just cut down some of the stuff. In nomine Deum, Matronam Nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Let us place ourselves in the presence of the Trinitarian Theophany, and in Catholic contemplation humbly adore the Divine Family. Most holy and venerable Trinitarian Theophany, one divine family, I believe that thou art here present. I venerate thee with the deepest humility. I render to thee with my whole heart the homage which is due to thee. O Trinitarian Theophany, relying on thine infinite goodness and promises, I hope to obtain the pardon of my sins, the help of thy grace, and life everlasting, through the merits of Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Matronam Nostrae. O Trinitarian Theophany, I love thee above all things with my whole heart and soul, because thou art all good and worthy of all love. I love my neighbor as myself for love of thee, and I forgive all who have injured me, and ask pardon of all whom I have injured. Just a reminder, today is July 1st, 2024, and July 6th is the first Friday of the month, the first Saturday of the month. So we'll just as a reminder for those who want to have their confessions done and continue with that devotion that Our Lady had asked us to do at Fatima. Let us thank the Trinitarian Theophany for the many graces that we receive and offer ourselves and our sufferings up to heaven. O Trinitarian Theophany, I most humbly thank thee for all the favors thou hast bestowed upon me to the present moment. It is again thanks to thy bounty that I should live to see this day, and I desire to employ it solely in thy service. I consecrate to thee all my thoughts, words, actions, and sufferings of this day. Sanctify them, that there may be none that is not animated by thy love, or that would not tend to thy greater glory. Let us make a firm resolution to avoid evil and to do good, and let us beg of the Trinitarian Theophany the graces which we need. O Trinitarian Theophany, thou knowest my weakness, and that I am unable to do anything good without the help of thy grace. Deny me not thy grace, proportionate to my necessities. Give me strength to avoid everything which thou forbiddest, to practice the good which thou hast commanded, and enable me patiently to bear all the trials which it may please thee to send me. O Deum Matronam Nostrae, I place myself under thy protection. I throw myself with confidence into the arms of thy compassion. Be to me, O Mother of Mercy, my refuge in distress, my consolation in suffering, now and at the hour of my death. O most holy Trinitarian Theophany, Dea matronam nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. I am heartily sorry for having offended thee, and I detest all my sins, because I dread the loss of heaven and the pains of hell, but most of all because they offend thee, O most holy Trinitarian Theophany. Dea matronam nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, who are all good and deserving of all my love. I firmly resolve, with the help of thy grace, to confess my sins, to do penance, and to amend my life. The Dialogue of St. Catherine of Sienna, Introduction. And remember, this was written, the introduction was written by Viareggio in September of 1906. Okay, so that this individual has a grasp of the 1800s. And there was a lot of prepping of basically their opinions of the centuries just prior to the 1800s. And it got a little lengthy and wordy, and I didn't think that was necessary, but I'm going to begin with here, and hopefully it gives a little bit more intro into the area of where Saint Catherine was from. So let's start here. It's like halfway through the introduction. Midway between sky and earth hangs a city beautiful, Sienna, Vetus civitas virginis. The town seems to have descended as a bride from airy regions, and lightly settled on the summits of 3 hills, which it crowns with domes and clustering towers. As seen from the vineyards which clothe the slopes of the hills, or with its crenellated wall and slender-necked campanile silhouetted against the evening sky, from the neighboring heights of Belcaro, the city is familiar to students of the early Italian painters. It forms the fantastic and solemn background of many a masterpiece of the Trecentisti, and seems the only possible home, if home they can have on earth, of the glorified persons who occupy the foreground. It would create no surprise to come, while walking around the ancient walls, suddenly a turn in the road, on one of the sacred groups so familiarly recurrent to the memory in such an environment. Often, indeed, one experiences a curious illusion when a passing friar happens for a moment to compose with cypress and crumbling archway. Sienna, once the successful rival of Florence in commerce, war, and politics, has fortunately, for the more vital interests which it represents, long desisted from such minor matters. Its worldly ruin has been complete for more than 500 years. In truth, the town has never recovered from the plague, which in the far-off days of 1348 carried off 80,000 of its population. There's an interesting theory and evidence, actually, and I'd like to do some more digging to find out. But we understand there's which only would make sense, that this plague was actually a poisoning, and there were certain individuals and groups behind it, just as there are today. And this has been a repetitive function of the dark side, if you will, to cull as many as they can to keep them under their controls. So it's just whenever I see this type of thing mentioned in history books and whatnot, I hope that we can grasp that these were planned reductions in population. And this idea that it couldn't be done that many years ago, or why would they do it that many years ago? Or people are the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Grassy mounds within the city walls mark the shrinking of the town since the date of their erection, and Mr. Murray gives its present population at less than 23,000. Again, this is in the 1900s. The Free Ghibelline Republic, which on that memorable 4th of September 1260 defeated with the help of Pisa at Monte Aperto the combined forces of the Guelph party in Tuscany, has now, after centuries of servitude to Spaniard and Austrian, to be content with the somewhat pinchbeck dignity of an Italian prefettura. At least the architectural degradation which has overtaken Florence at the hands of her modern rulers has been as yet in great measure spared to Sienna. Even the railway has had the grace to conceal its presence in the folds of olive which enwrap the base of the hill on which the city is set. Once inside the rose-colored walls, as we pass up the narrow, roughly paved streets between lines of palaces, some grim and massive, like Casa Tolomei, built in 1205, others delicate specimens of Italian Gothic, like the Palazzo Saraceni, others again illustrating the combination of grace and strength which marked the domestic architecture of the Renaissance at its prime, like the Palazzo Piccolomini. We find ourselves in a world very remote indeed from anything which the experience of our own utilitarian century makes us familiar. And yet, as we rub our eyes, unmistakably a world of facts, though of facts, as it were, visibly interpreted by the deeper truth of an art whose insistent presence is on all sides of us. Here is Casa Tolomei, a huge cube of rough-hewn stone stained to the color of tarnished silver with age, once the home of that Madonna Pia, whose story lives forever in the verse of Dante. Who shall distinguish between her actual tale of days and the immortal life given her by the poet? Who, in her moment of suffering, at last she has been made eternal. And not far from that ancient fortress home, in a winding alley that can hardly be called a street, is another house of medieval Sienna. No palace this time, but a small tradesman's dwelling. In the 4th century, it belonged to Ser Giacomo Benincasa, a dyer. Part of it has now been converted into a chapel, over the door of which are inscribed the words Sponsae XT Catarinae Domus. Here, on March 5th, 1347, being Palm Sunday, was born Giacomo's daughter Caterina, who still lives in one of the purest glories of the Catholic Church under the name of St. Catherine of Siena. More than 500 years have passed since the daughter of this Sienese dyer entered into the rest of that sublime and touching symbolism, under which the Church half veils and half reveals her teaching as to the destiny of man. Another case, but how profoundly more significant than that of poor Madonna Pia, of the intertwining of the world of fact with the deeper truth of art. St. Catherine was born at the same time as a twin sister who did not survive. Her parents, Giacomo and Lapa Benincasa, were simple townspeople, prosperous and apparently deserving their reputation for piety. Lapa, the daughter of one Muccio Piagenti, a now wholly forgotten poet, bore 25 children to her husband, of whom 13 only appear to have grown up. This large family lived together in the manner still obtaining in Italy, in the little house, till the death of Giacomo in 1368. There are stirring pages enough in Catholic hagiology who can read unmoved of the struggles toward his ideal of an Augustine or a Loyola, or of the heroic courage of a Teresa, affirming against all human odds the divinity of her mission and justifying, after years of labor, her incredible assertions by the steadfastness of her will. There are other pages in the lives of the saints, less dramatic, it may be, but breathing, nevertheless, a naive grace and poetry of all their own. The childhood of those servants of Deum Jesum Christum, who have borne his yoke from the dawn of their days, forms their charming theme. Here the blasting illuminations of the revelation are toned down to a soft and tender glow, in which the curves and lines of natural humanity do but seem more pathetically human. The hymn at lauds for the feast of the Holy Innocents represents those unconscious martyrs as playing with their palms and crowns under the very altar of heaven. Vos prima Christi victima, Grex immolatorum tener, aram sub ipsam simplices, palma et coronis luditis. And I'm going to stop there, and we'll continue with the introduction tomorrow and get a little bit more feel of her family and her town. Deum vobiscum, et quoque pote. Oremus. O Trinitarian Theophany, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, grant to the souls of thy servants and handmaids the remission of all their sins, that they may obtain by loving prayers the forgiveness which they have always desired, who livest and reignest with thee, one divine family, forever and ever. Suscipe Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum Hanc Immaculatum Hostiam, quam ego indignus famulus tuus offenditibi Deum meum vivum et verum, pro inumidibus peccatis et offensionibus et negligentis meis, et pro omnibus circumstantibus, sed pro omnibus fidelibus catalocorum, vivis atque defunctis ut mihi et idis proficiat ad salutem. Deum qui humanae substantiae dignitatem merividito condidisi et merividus reformasti da nobis, piruhus aquae, et ovinium mysterium eius divinitatis esse consortes, qui humanitatis nostrae fiedidi nosis est paterceps. Deum Iesum Christum Filium, qui tecum vivit et reinat in unitate Deum Patrum, Spiritum Sanctum. Offerimus tibi Deum calicem, salutaris tuum deprecantis clementium, uticus fetis divinae maestatis tuae, pro nostra totius mundi salute, cum adore suavitatis ascendat. in spiritu humilitatis, et in animo contrito suscipiam arate Deum Iesum Christum, et sic fiat sacrificium nostrum ec espetuto hodie, uplacia tibi Deum matronam nostrae, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Veni sanctificator, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, et sanctifici deblata prosequendo, et accepere hoc sacrificium, tuo sancto nomine praeparatum. Suscipe Sancta Trinitas Sanct Oblationum cum tibi efferimus, a memoriam passiones, resurrectiones et ascensiones Deum Iesum Christum. Et in honorem Dei matronam nostrae, et a Papa Peter Sanctorum, et Istorum, et Omnium Sanctorum, ut idis proficiet ad honorem nobis autem ad salutem, et idi pro nobis intercedere dignentur in caelis, quorum memoriam agimus in telis pedinum Christum Deum nostrum. Orate, ut meum ac vestrum sacrificium acceptabile fiat apud Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Suscipiat de Deum Iesum Christum, sacrificium de manibus tui, sed laudem et gloriam nomini sui, ad utilitatem quoque nostram totiusque ecclesiae suae sanctae. Deum vobiscum, quoque apud sursum corda habemus a Deum, gratias agamus Deum nostrum, dignum et justum est. Te igitur lamentissimi, Mater et Pater et Deum Matronum Nostrae, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per Deum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum Deum Nostrae, supplices rogamus ac petimus. Uti accepta habeas et sanctificas, hec sanctam sacrificium irribata. In primis quae tibi afferimus pro ecclesiam tuam sanctam catholicam, quam pacificare custodire honore, et regere digneris tot obiterarum atque catholicae. Memento Deum, fabulorum famorumque tuorum. We pray for the sick and the suffering. Pray for Katie, Gage, Neil and Earl Lively, Maria Josephina Mose, Mark Jr., Henry, Barbara, and Benedict Santa Croce, Casey, Mr. Nobody, Ann Botink, the Cantu and Duarte families, Jenna, Lena, Lori, Aaron and family, Maria and the Line Weber family, the Cahill, Dasco, Naita, for Wolf and Began families. We pray for Mr. Nobody to receive the funding and strength needed to complete the first Sede Vacantis Catholic Council office in Monastery of Illinois. We pray for an end to all governmental allowance or sanctioning of abortion, transhumanism, transgenderism, child trafficking, child abuse, any kind of harm to people, anywhere, place, or time. We pray for the establishment of a Catholic monarchy with a sound Catholic system of labor, human value, medium of exchange, with no usury. We pray for courageous Catholic men to step forward as leaders of this Catholic society. We ask for all these intentions to be fulfilled, and that you destroy the satanic document of the Vatican law, which is the Jewish Talmud, and that we all recognize the authority of the Catholic Church to now be in Portugal and not listen to anything coming from Rome. We also ask for the continued blockage of any so-called pandemic treaties, again for the same purpose, population reduction and limiting the travel of people. We also ask for the transfer of any souls under the dominion of any Jew or Freemason that gives support to Israel. All these things we ask in accordance with God's holy and divine will. Trinitarian Theophany. Et omnium circumstantiam quorum tibi fides, cognita est et nota devotio, pro quibus tibi afferimus, vel qui tibi offront hoc sacrificium laudis, proces visque omnibus, pro redemptione animarum suarum prospe salutis et ingulamitatis suae. Tibi credum vota sua aeterno Deum vivo et vero, communicantes et memoriam venerantes in primis gloriosae, semper Deum matronam nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et beatorum martyrium tuorum papae sancti Petri, et sancti Lucia, et sancti Jacinta, et sancti Francisco, et sancti Juan Diego, et omnium sanctorum tuorum, quorum meritis, praecibusque concedas, ut in omnibus protectiones tuae muniam auxilio pedinum Christum Deum nostrum, quam oblationem Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum in omnibus consecratum a capitalemque facere dignitis ut nobis corpum, et sanguim fiat didictissimi filium tuum Deum Iesum Christum, qui pridie quam pateretor, accepet panem in sancta sac honorabilis manus suas, et derivatis oculis in caelum, a te Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum suum omnipotentem tibi gratias agens, consecravit, frege didique lumis udicens accipite et mandicate ex hoc omnes. Hoc est enim corpus meum. Simine modo postquam ceremonia est accipiens et hunc prae clarum calicem in sancta sacco honorabilis manus suas et in tibi gratias agens Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, consecravi didique lumis vidicens accipite et vivite ex omnes. Hic est enim calix sanguinis mei mysterium fidei, quae pro nobis et pro multis effudetur in remissione peccatorum, haec ut est cum qui feceritis in me mono facietis. Unde et memores Deum nostro virtui, sed plebs tua sancta, eiustem Christum filium tuum Deum nostrae, tam beatae, passionis nec non et in fidis resurrectionis, sed et in caelos gloriosae ascensionis affedimus, praeclare maiestati tuae, de tuis donis actatis, supra quae propitio auxareno utur respiciere digneris. Supplices te rogamus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, iubi hec preferre per manus tuum ut quod ex hoc autoris participatione sacro sanctum Deum Filium tuum corpus et sanguinem senimus omni sanctificatione caeleste et gratia Dei per amor pedendum Christum Deum nostrae. We pray for those who have died, and we especially pray for Carolyn Sider, for whom this Mass is being offered. Ipsis Deum et omnibum in Christum quiscentibum locum refugiere lucis et pacis ut odorge est proclamor pedendum Christum Deum nostrum, per quem haec omnia Deum Iesum Christum semper bona creas, sanctificas, vivificas, consecratis et praestas nobis. Per ipsum et cum ipso et in ipso, est ibi Deum Matrum omnipotente in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, omnis honor et gloria. Ave Dea, matronam nostrae, gratia plena Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum tecum, Dea matronam nostrae, matram Deum Iesum Christum, misericordia nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Libera nos quaesimus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, ab omnibus malis, praeteritis, praesentibus et futuris, et intercedente beata gloriosa semper Dea matronam nostrae, cum Papa Petrum Sanctorum et omnibus sanctis da propitiis pacem in divos nostris. ut ope misericordiae tuae aduiti et peccato simus semper liberi et ab omni perturbatione securi. Per indum Deum nostrum Iesum Christum filium tuum Deum nostrum, qui tecum vivit et regnat in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per aeternam. Pax Deum Iesum Christum sed semper vobiscum et quoque apud te. Haec commixtio et consecratio corporis et sanguinis Deum Iesum Christum, fiat accipientibus nobis in ad salutem aeternam. Pax tecum et quoque apud te. Deum Iesum Christum, qui ex voluntate Deum matronam nostrae, cooperante Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per mortem tuam unum vivificasti, libera me per hoc sacrosanctum corpus et sanguinum tuum ab omnibus iniquitatibus meis, et universis malis, et fac me tui semper in hadare mendatis, et ate numquam separare permittas, qui cum eo Dea matronam nostrae, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum vivis et regnam aeternam, perceptio corporis tui Deum Iesum Christum, quod ego indignus sumere praesumo, non mihi proveniat in judicium et condemnationem, sed pro tua pietate prosit mihi ad tutamentum et corporis, et ad medelam percipiendam, qui vivis et regnas cum Deam matronam nostrae in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Panem caelestem accipiem et nomen Deum Iesum Christum invocabo. Dea matronam nostrae non sum dignius, ut et meis in tanto liquebus in aeternum mea. Deum Iesum Christum non sum dignius, ut et meis in tanto liquebus in aeternum mea. Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum non sum dignius, ut et meis in tanto liquebus in aeternum mea. Corpus Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima mea. Quid retribuam Deum Iesum Christum pro omnibus quae retribuit mihi, calicem salutaris accipiem et nomen Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum invocabo. Laudans invocabo Deam matronam nostrae, et ab inimicis meis salvus ero. Sanguis Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima mea. Corpus Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet animam tuum. Quod ore sumpsimus Deum Iesum Christum, puramente capemus et immunere temperae fit nobis remedium sempiternum. Corpus tuum Deum Iesum Christum quod sumpsit sanguis quam potave herebus meis, et praesta ut in me non remeniat. Scelero macula quem pura et sancta reficerunt sacramenta. Deum vobiscum, et quoque te, oremus. May the prayerly suppliants profit the souls of thy servants and handmaids, we beseech thee, O Trinitarian Theophany, that thou mayest free them from all sins and make them sharers in thy redemption, who livest and reignest with thee, one divine family, forever and ever. Deum vobiscum, et quoque te, ite mises, Deum gratia. Placeat tibi sancta Trinitam, obsequium servitutis meae, et praesta ut sacrificium quod oculis tuae majestatis igninus optuli tibi sit acceptabile mihique et omnibus, pro quibus idut optuli siti miserante propitiabile per Christum Deum nostrum. Sanctificat vos omnipotens Deum, Matronam et Filium et Spiritum Sanctum, Deum Matronam Nostra et Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Gracias. O Trinitarian Theophany, I believe, I venerate, I hope, and I love thee. I beg of thee pardon for those who do not believe, do not venerate, do not hope, and do not love thee. Most Holy Trinitarian Theophany, Deum Matronam Nostra et Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. I venerate thee profoundly, and I offer to thee the most precious body, blood, soul, and divinity of Deum Iesum Christum present here in reparation for the outrages, sacrileges, and indifference by which he himself is offended. And through the infinite merits of his most sacred heart and immaculate heart of Deum Matronam Nostrae, I beg of thee the conversion of poor sinners. In nomine Deum Matronam Nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Gracias. Thank you for your steadfastness. Good day, Denise. How are you? And thank you for being there and on this Monday. It's kind of a quiet day, isn't it? All right, well, we'll see you tomorrow. Please sanctify all those who you meet, and get ready for the first Saturday of the month. It's coming 6th. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.